Come on, let's go, baby. The Philadelphia Phillies, they win this ball game 5-4. They come back from a 4-0 deficit, starting from the bottom of the sixth inning onto the bottom of the 10th, where they walk it off with a Jay Bruce double, RBI double to win this ball game. And the Phillies, they take this they take 3 games out of 4 right now from the New York Mets in this 4-game series. And coming off of that 7-game losing streak, the Phillies look like they're getting their swagger back. They're getting the timely hits. The bullpen is starting to close the door when they need to. And they're picking up for our starting pitching when they don't have a really good start. And that's what happened with Nick Pivetta in this ball game. I'll say it right here. He sucked today. He didn't pitch good. And he's had a few solid starts coming back from AAA, but I'll say this is probably his worst start since being brought back up. The Mets, they were just jumping to him early in the count, and Nick Pivetta just looked like he couldn't locate some of his best stuff. He couldn't locate the curveball, which was getting rocked a couple times. He left it hanging, and the Mets were just able to jump on it. And like I said, the Mets were just jumping on him early in the count, and they were getting hits. And where Nick Pivetta only goes 5 2/3 innings, he allows 9 hits, 4 runs, and the Mets were just jumping on him, and it just didn't have his stuff today. And on the other side of the mound, Vargas, he had a really solid day. He had 10 strikeouts, which was a career high, and he really looked like he wasn't throwing that many pitches when he was taking out. But the Mets make a really dumb decision later in this ball game, which I will discuss later, that royally screws them over for the rest of the ball game. So I'll start in the beginning of this ball game. Nick Pivetta on the mound, and Dominic Smith has been a Philly killer in this series and the whole season. He hits his 3rd home run of the series on an opposite field shot, and yes, he is having a bounce back season, which is really good for Mets fans and him to see. So, but he has been a Philly killer lately, and it's making me mad that he's just hitting all these home runs left and right. It's kind of annoying that a lot of players just around the league are starting to turn into Philadelphia Philly killers. So the Mets have a 1-0 lead after that home run. That's a salty Phillies fan talking right there. So we get in the 5th inning, Jeff McNeil, he hits another opposite field home run to make it 2-0 Phillies. And on both of these home runs, Nick Pivetta, he left the curveball hanging on both of these home runs. And like I said, the Mets were just jumping on that curveball and jumping on most of his pitches early in the count. They were just reading what Nick Pivetta was throwing. And then in the top of the 6th inning, the Mets are able to score 2 more runs, which throws Nick Pivetta out of this ball game. So he only goes 5 2/3, which we have to bring Jose Alvarez to close out the 6th inning. And in the bottom of the 6th, we have Gene Segura. He gets the Phillies on the board with a solo bomb to left field. And Gene Segura, he's starting to get hot as of late. In his last 7 games, he has 3 home runs. So maybe we're starting to get back into seeing the consistent Gene Segura when he's getting multiple hits per game. And that's a really good sight to see down the stretch right now, because we need that type of production from Gene Segura, just getting on base and getting multiple hit games. And then we get to the 7th inning, where this is where the decision that the Mets royally screwed themselves over. So JT Realmuto, he gets a double, and then Jay Bruce, he almost hits a home run, but he manages to drive him over to third base. And then Cesar Hernandez, he gets a ground rule double, manages to score JT Realmuto. And this is before the Cesar Hernandez ground rule double. So Jay Bruce manages to get JT to third base. Callaway, the Mets manager, decides to take Vargas out of this ball game when Vargas is dealing, when the Phillies just look like they can't hit the guy at all. And you're taking him out of this ball game with only like 70 at least 70 pitches under his belt. You're taking him out of the ball game, and you're taking Dominic Smith out of the ball game as well. He made a double switch. The guy that has a home run in this ball game, and he's been killing the Phillies pitching in this whole series. You're taking him out as well as Vargas, who was dealing in this ball game. What kind of decision is that? I feel for you Mets fans, because Callaway is an idiot. He's been through a lot of stupid decisions lately through the New York Mets, and this is probably one of his worst decisions this season. He took out Jason Vargas, who was dealing tonight, and it probably costed the Mets a win. So the Mets bring in the reliever. First pitch, Cesar Hernandez hits a ground rule double to center field, which scores JT Realmuto, thus making it a 4-2 Mets lead. And then we get Scott Kingery. He manages to get on off of a wild pitch, which loads the bases. because Brad Miller manages to work a walk as well. So we got bases loaded for Gene Segura. He gets a 2-run single to make it a 4-4 game. And this is going to come back to haunt Callaway because was a terrible decision on the Mets standpoint. And I should be pumped right now because I'm a Phillies fan, but just looking at that was a terrible decision from Callaway. Just taking Vargas out of the ballgame just royally screwed over your team. And the Phillies just took off from there. Well, not really took off, but the bullpen manages to seal the deal the rest of the way, and we managed to win this ball game. Taking Vargas out of this ball game for the New York Mets just was the worst decision to make because he was dealing. He was having a career night. The Phillies couldn't hit him. They couldn't see the ball out of his hand. And you screwed your team over, and you also took away your best hitter that in this series so far. Taking away Smith, who has hit 3 home runs in this series. It's just stupid decisions, and I don't know if this is like analytics based, but that was just a dumb decision overall. It reminded me of last year, Gabe Kapler. Ugh. And I don't want to go back to that. Callaway, you're reminding me of last year's Gabe Kapler, and I am sorry, Mets fans, that you had to see that. So, Phillies are managed to tie it up in the 7th inning, and then we get to the bottom of the 9th inning. The Phillies get a couple men on, but they manage to not do anything. Bryce Harper strikes out. Gene Segura flies out. No, actually, the Phillies don't get anyone on in the 9th inning, but we had the top of the lineup up in the 9th inning, and they really didn't do anything. Like Scott Kingery, he struck out. Gene Segura popped up, and Bryce Harper struck out on a 100-mile pitch. The top of the lineup tonight, besides Gene Segura, didn't look all that good. Bryce Harper had 2 walks. Scott Kingery, he struck out 4 times. Really didn't look good at the plate so far. But we get to the bottom of the 10th inning, and we get Rhys Hoskins. He works out a walk on a 9-pitch at-bat. Even though there were some pitches where he should have been walked earlier in the at-bat, there was one pitch that was like right low on the corner, and it looked like a ball, but the umpire called it a strike. But nonetheless, Rhys Hoskins does work out the walk. Then JT Realmuto comes up. He gets a single, and it's 1st and 2nd. But then Gabe Kapler decides to pinch run for Rhys Hoskins. He brings in Roman Quinn. And from that decision, you have to win the ball game because you got 2 guys on for Jay Bruce with no out, and you got a speedy Roman Quinn at second base. And yet again, you have 0 outs. You have to win this ball game if you're pinch running for Rhys Hoskins because that is a big bat. That is a big bat to take out of the lineup in that situation. So, got Roman Quinn on second base, got JT on first, got Jay Bruce up to bat, and what does he do? He hits a walk-off double to center field, closing out this ball game for the Philadelphia Phillies. They win by a score of 5-4, and we take 3 games out of this series against the New York Mets. We take the series so far, and we have an afternoon game tomorrow where Aaron Nola is on the mound against Zach Wheeler, and all is good right now because the Phillies are starting to look like they're getting that mojo back. The offense is starting to get timely hits again, and the bullpen is coming in and taking advantage, closing the door down when our starting pitching is not having their best night. And that is a really good sign to see moving down the stretch. So a few statistics from this ball game, like I said, Scott Kingery, he goes 0-for-5 with 4 strikeouts, but that 1 strikeout got the bases loaded because it was a wild pitch. And that led to the Gene Segura two-run single in the 6th inning. And from Gene Segura's standpoint, he went 2-for-5 with 2 RBIs on the night. Bryce Harper, he goes 0-for-3. He had 2 walks in this ball game. Rhys Hoskins goes 0-for-4, but he had a walk. Then you got Roman Quinn, who was the pinch runner for Rhys Hoskins. JT Realmuto goes 2-for-5. Jay Bruce goes 2-for-5 with the walk-off double. Cesar Hernandez, another multi-hit game for him. He goes 2-for-4. Maikel Franco, he goes 1-for-3. And then from our pitching standpoint, Nick Pivetta goes 5 2/3, 9 hits allowed, 4 earned runs, only 3 strikeouts. Then we got Jose Alvarez. He goes an inning and a third, 1 hit allowed, and that's really good for Jose Alvarez. J.D. Hammer goes 2/3 of an inning, strikes out 1, allows a walk. Then we bring in Adam Morgan for the rest of the 8th inning. He shuts the door down in the 8th. Then we bring in Hector Neris for the 9th inning. He gets a strikeout. He shuts down the 8th inning. Then we bring in Garcia, who has been struggling of late, but he closes his door in the top of the 10th. And that gives the Phillies the opportunity to win the ball game in the bottom of the 10th, which they did. So, really good ball game out of the Phillies so far. They managed to come back from that 4-0 deficit. And it's just a good feeling overall right now. The bamboo is working. Just all hail the bamboo right now because it's bringing some type of spirit for this Phillies squad right now. They are believing in the bamboo, so everyone in Philadelphia, go out and buy yourself a bamboo plant, put it in your house, decorate it with Philly stuff, just whatever. Just go out and buy yourself a bamboo plant because that's what the Phillies are doing. Gabe Kapler got a bamboo plant in his office from Brad Miller, so it looks like Miller's just going out and buying bamboo plants for everyone in the Phillies clubhouse. So it just really feels like that plant is just bringing good spirits for this ball club, and it's just making them give out positive energy. Going into games with that positive energy, some good stuff is going to happen for you when you go into a game with positive energy, and that's what the Phillies are doing right now, believing in this bamboo plant. So, me not being that superstitious guy, let them believe in the bamboo plant because the bamboo plant is working. So all hail the bamboo plant for now. So, in wrap up, Phillies win this ball game in 10th, and the Mets, Callaway, their manager, royally screws them over with that terrible decision in the 7th inning. So, what are your thoughts on this ball game? What are your thoughts on this Phillies win? What are your thoughts on the series as a whole right now, taking 3 out of 4 from the Mets? What are your thoughts going down the road the rest of the week for the Phillies, and just what are your feelings overall about the bamboo plant? Share me your thoughts on the bamboo plant because it's really helping us so far. So, don't forget to drop a comment. Don't forget to leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, boys, and I will see you in the next one.